Good morning. We have to be a little bit excited today. Can you hear me? Am I a little too loud? Okay. You have to be a little, that wasn't a very good morning. I'm afraid you passed out. So good morning. Glad that you're with us today. If you get a little bit hot today, well, obviously you are, but if you get too hot, there's a place outside with some towels where you can go, and there'll be a plate of folks there to help you in case during this little talk. Now, here's the good news of the day, because I know some of you need some good news. I'm not going to preach for a long time. Isn't that good news? I've been out of town for a while, and so, no, my lesson's for next week, so I went a different route instead of going with what I intended to, because obviously this is a different type of day. We have so many people who have volunteered to make sure that this happened. There have been folks that have been working in houses. If you are on Facebook, you have seen on Instagram, you've seen pictures of large groups of members from here who have been out doing just incredible work. And then to think that all of this was pulled off is also incredible, all the way to our streaming today. And I am so thankful to so many people who have given so much. And their names, most of them you won't even know or won't even realize who they were. It is just incredible what all's gone on and how Christian brothers and sisters help in the midst of trials. So this morning I want to take us in a little different direction for a few minutes. And you remember we're in the middle of a series called Sermons on the Mound. And so even though I'm not going to do the regular sermon, we still have to have a Sermon on the Mound, right? And so I want to take you back to July 13th, 1977, a Wednesday evening. If you were alive on July 13th, 1977, there is a good chance that many of you were in Bible class on that night studying about Jesus. But everyone wasn't. There in New York City on that night, July 13th, Wednesday night, 1977, two of the worst teams in baseball were playing each other. The New York Mets playing at home against the Chicago Cubs. And on that night, the game was going on as games do. Lenny Randle came up to bat. He was standing there waiting for the pitch to come from Ray Burris, who was pitching for the Cubs. And all at once, before the ball came, and it didn't come, the lights went completely out at Shea Stadium. And only 14,000 people had shown up for the game because both teams were so bad. But they thought it was fun and hilarious whenever it happened, because this was just one other thing that was bad about the Mets season. And so the organist, they had a generator, and the organist started playing and led the fans in songs, sing-along songs. They sang, "I'm Dreaming of a White Christmas" in July. Two of the players went through the left field fence where they had a garage door, lifted it, and brought their cars, their vehicles, onto the field and turned on their headlights so that the players could practice and throw the ball back and forth to each other. It was a crazy night, and people had so much fun. Until an hour and a half later, whenever they got the message over the loudspeaker that we are sending everyone home, New York City is in a complete blackout. And it was in a blackout because there had been lightning way far away on the Hudson River that had taken out some transformers. They had not done the maintenance that was supposed to be done. Now the largest city in the United States, one of the most important cities in the world, was without lights. So you can imagine that a lot of people were really worried, and they stayed in their houses and they locked their doors and to make sure that no one came in. But other people saw it as an opportunity to take advantage of their neighbors. And so on that night, nearly 2,000 people were arrested for looting. Over $300 million of merchandise was stolen out of stores. Buildings were broken into, glass was broken. It was an awful, awful evening as they were in the dark. There seems to be something that is unusual about the dark that scares us to death. Literally, just this morning, I was listening to a program that I did not expect to be a part of what I'm about to say. That was about death and dying. And a man said that was dying, had been recorded earlier. He said, "Why do the chaplains in the hospital only come during the day?" He said, "It's in the middle of the night that I need the chaplain." He said, "It's at 3 a.m. I need the chaplain." It's in the darkness that we start thinking strange thoughts and crazy things. It's in the darkness that we struggle. And so even now, as some of you may have come from homes that are in the dark and they're hot, and you may have been struggling with thoughts and crazy thoughts and thoughts that you know that don't even make sense during the day, but somehow in the middle of the night, they seem so clear and obvious, but they're wrong. I think about in the Bible, in Isaiah chapter 50, in verse 11, whenever God speaks to his people about what it's like for people who make their own light, who decide that they know what is right in the midst of their darkness. And he says, but now all you who light fires and provide yourselves with flaming torches. He's saying, all you who make your own right, all of you who make your own light, go, walk in the light of your own fires, and on the torches you have set ablaze. This is what you shall receive from my hand. God says, this is what you will get for following your own light in the middle of the darkness. You will lie down in torment. Wow. Let me tell you, it feels a little bit hot. It makes me think of torment, right? He said, this is what happens whenever you go your own way. But one verse before, in verse 10, he says, this is what it's like for people who follow God. He says, who among you fears the Lord and obeys the word of his servant? Let the one who walks in the dark, you know what it's like to walk in the dark? Let him who walks in the dark, who has no light, trust in the name of the Lord and rely on their God. So what would God tell you in the middle of the night when you're scared of those things and those thoughts that come through your head? What would God say to us in the midst of not knowing what we're going to do because maybe our job is down, because electricity's down? What would God say in the middle of a marriage problem? What would he say in the middle of an illness? What would he say in the middle of war? He would say, in your darkness, trust in the Lord and let the Lord be your light. No matter what happens, whenever it happens, or where it happens, trust in the Lord in the midst of the darkness. I think because you are here on a hot day, that maybe you have been directed, you know what that light is. But if you don't know that light, I want you to know it this morning. In John chapter 8, in verse 12, hundreds of years after God said the things in the book of Isaiah, Jesus, his son, says, I am the light of the world. Whoever follows me will never walk in darkness, but will have the light of life. You may have dark times. We may lose electricity, but it does not mean that we have to be dark. But we can walk in the light that is Jesus. You know, I love what Jesus says. He says, I am the way and the truth and the life. That if you want to have the light that will shine and bring you the hope and the salvation that you want, follow Jesus because he is the way. Follow Jesus because he is the truth. Everything else is false. He is the truth. If you want the energy to live that life, follow Jesus because he is life. And if you want to be able to see in the dark, follow Jesus because he is the light. And this morning, this is just a simple message, but I want you to know I believe with all my heart, and I know many of you do. I hope all of you do. He is the way. The answer to the frustration and the problems and the sin in our life is Jesus. Following Jesus. And you say, well, how do I do that? I read his word. I read Matthew and Mark and Luke and John and the rest. And I say, what is it that he wants for my life? I find other Christians like the people who are here today. You know, so many people don't have people out helping them through this storm. But if people here know that they need help, there are people here that are going out and helping them to make sure they have help. I so hurt for people who look down at churches and groups of Christians who have no idea what they're missing, the help, the community that they're missing. Follow Jesus. This morning, if you need help, even though things are down, you can still text us or email us at prayer@mcoc.org. If you have prayer concerns, you can come forward and we'll pray for you as well. And if you need to be baptized into Jesus, you can still do that. We've got flashlights, and we'll take you over into the dark building and baptize you over there. But you can have your sins washed away and receive that light that will never go away. Come this morning as we stand and sing.